welcome back to the show. I'm here with Sky Jitani.
Deja vu.
I lost my top billing.
I had to restart the show. I'm sorry. Oh, and the first time I started it, you had top billing. And Christian Taylor,
Hi,
who's way
Phil.
more important than Sky Jitani because she's wearing seafoam green.
Do we need to address the technical difficulties of this program lately?
Hey, it's a podcast. What do
That
you
means
know?
no.
It's an engineer. Hey, it's a podcast. Oops, I did the song wrong.
Phil, what
Are
is
you
wrong
drinking?
with you today?
No, I was just tired. I'm a little tired. And we got video. Hey, it's a podcast. Solendan here. The Phil Vischer podcast starts right here. We'll talk to Sky
If the technology's working.
and Christian too.
I'm here too.
And we got no guest
Hopefully.
except my dog Buddy here for you. Hey, it's a podcast. Solendan here. The Phil Vischer podcast starts right here. The Phil Vischer podcast starts right here. Okay.
That went better the first time.
Yeah, like so many things in life. Boy, that went better the first time. We just started, and then we noticed that for some reason the audio recorder was not audio recording, and so we had to stop and start over again. And that made Sky really irritated, and he's going to be irritated for the rest of the show now. So it might be, as Justin Brierley would say, it might be sparky. We'll see how that goes. So you're going to France on Wednesday.
I am going to France on Wednesday.
What's going on in France?
So my son, who's in the Army, as you
Hunter.
all know, Hunter, he was selected as part of, I don't know, actually they felt very bad for him and they decided to give him this wonderful opportunity, which was to represent the 1506th in the D-Day ceremonies in Normandy.
Okay.
So he has flown over there and apparently all the French people, when they see them, call them liberators and
that's
they
nice.
really kind of fawn over them. So for graduation, I gave my 18-year-old this trip to France, and we're going to go over and watch him be in these celebrations and reenactments and things
That's
like
very
that.
cool.
It's very cool.
So you won't be here next week?
I won't be, but I will be back with fun stories. for
And
sure.
souvenirs.
Yeah, actually, I've been planning what I was going to bring the two of you. I've
Really?
already thought about it. Yeah.
Berets.
Ooh la la!
Baguettes.
So I don't.
Tiny Eiffel Towers.
I've had
to put
several
on our
things
shelf.
I have
flip
that.
through my mind, and that was one of them. But I'm not going to tell you.
Wait,
that.
are you going to Paris?
I'm going to spend a day and a half in Paris
Okay.
and go up the Eiffel Tower and do a evening cruise on the Seine. And then we drive a car to Normandy, from Paris to Normandy. This is going to be
Okay.
quite the adventure.
Yeah.
And then we stay there and then I fly home. So
It's been a long time since I've been to France.
I haven't traveled overseas
Well, I
in
guess it hasn't
over
been that
30
long.
years.
I have
30
never
years.
been to France.
You don't like crossing water, do you?
I've played a French P for many years now. 26 years.
So that makes you an expert on all things French, doesn't it?
Do you know what's funny is because I never took French in high school. So what we've done there have been some scripts written by others, like by someone who took French. And so they say, okay, the French P's, I'm going to give them some real French phrases to say.
Nice.
And they'll write in a real French phrase. And Mike and I don't know how to pronounce it.
Because you just drop half the letters.
I just make French noises. I don't know French words. I just make noises.
All I know, which I
Very
don't think
challenging.
is going to come in handy, is Je m'appelle chrétien or Ferme la bouche chrétien, or I know the entire Lord's Prayer in French
Really?
because I memorized it in 7th grade and it's never lost my brain.
Wow.
But I can't tell you what I
I
had
know
for breakfast.
Forme la bouche as well.
Do you?
That's-
Did
yeah.
you get that too? You never talked in school, I heard.
No, I didn't talk much in school. And when people talked to me, I said, Forme la bouche, which means shut your mouth.
Yeah, I figured that out.
Yeah.
And I didn't take French either.
Forme la
I took a
bouche.
whole lot of Spanish, though, and I
Frenchy.
can't speak any of it.
I took 2 years of Spanish.
I took
and I didn't.
2 in high school, 2 in college.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a whole lot of Spanish. Why did you keep taking it?
Well, because I had to take 2 years in high school,
Yeah.
and my best friend Jay was in class with me, which means I barely passed
Yeah.
any of those because we were just bad. And then I ended up majoring.
Like morally bad?
Well,
Like selling drugs?
no, like we had this older teacher, and she was gone a lot for health reasons, so we'd get substitutes all the time.
Oh, no.
And half the time the substitute didn't know Spanish. And I used to wear glasses, and whenever it was a substitute, I would come in. Oh, I can't do that. I'd take my glasses off and cross my eyes in class and say I broke my glasses in gym class and I'm legally blind, and then she wouldn't make me do anything.
Really?
Yeah.
He is kind of bad.
And then I took
Have
two
you
more
told
years.
your kids that story?
No, I took 2 more
Okay.
years in college because I was a double major in history and comparative religion, which is in the humanities. And if you're in a humanities major, you have to take a language. So I did 2 more years of Spanish there, and I only got through that by flirting with my professor.
What?
I took 4
You told
years
your kids
as
about
well.
that?
No.
I took 4 years as well, and I probably couldn't speak it either. And then I had a person that took care of Hunter when he was a baby, and she spoke no English.
Was she
No.
legal? Can we get you indicted here?
Was she French?
I no comment.
Okay.
And she was from the Dominican Republic, and she didn't speak any English, and so I had to learn to talk to her. So that Spanish was stuck somewhere in my brain.
That's good. See, I haven't had a need to learn more Spanish. And then I'm not particularly gifted at languages to begin with. So then I go to seminary, and I'm like, fine, I'm done with school, no more Spanish. And then I find out I have to take
Greek.
2 years of Greek and 2 years of Hebrew.
It's a wonder you made it out of school.
It is a
Did
miracle.
that stick?
Some of it. But see, you don't learn it conversationally. You're
Right.
learning it academically.
Academically.
Right. So it's a little different.
So things are stickier academically for you than you'd rather be academic than conversational?
Well, whatever. I'm just not very good with languages, but I can utilize them when necessary.
I'd rather preach at you than talk
And
with
I
you.
couldn't exactly flirt with my seminary prof to get through those classes.
No? Why?
They frown on that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so
So,
closed-minded.
Did
At least
you
in
really
evangelicals,
like your Spanish teacher, or was
Well, in college, she was older, and she was Argentinian, and she took a liking to me. She kept asking me if my father was available, and I had. So we flirted. It was completely innocent.
I don't think I
but
want to hear
she
any more
she
of that
inflated my grade a
story.
little.
I really don't
know what I
think.
mean.
I have to apologize for last week's podcast. I turned off Sky's mic, and it's hard to hear someone with their mic turned off, and that was my fault.
you were having a narcissistic moment, maybe?
The wires were crossed. I thought I was turning down the mic Sky was not at. And because both of my narcissistic co-hosts rebelled against wearing headphones every day because it messed up their hair and or lack of hair, I no longer wear headphones, so I don't hear if the audio is actually working.
But we got it all straightened out today.
We got it all straightened out.
Hopefully.
Movies.
Movies.
We got the first batch of summer movies going.
Yes,
Has anyone seen any of them?
mostly.
Age of Ultron.
Yes.
Only vicariously through my children.
Okay, Age of Ultron.
I saw it.
Did it do anything to you?
It drained my pocketbook
Okay.
when I had to take the whole family.
Okay.
It was fine. It was fun. It was whatever.
It was. I found it serviceable. But,
Yes.
You know, it's just such an overwhelming amount of fighting. It
Yeah,
kind of becomes silly.
I think that the Marvel universe has sort of this diminishing return
Yeah.
because now we know
Right.
what to expect,
Right.
and they have to
so
keep.
it's like drug use. You have to keep turning up the dosage
Right.
to get the same impact, but then you just can't get any impact.
Yeah, but then the
anymore,
problem
and
is
you
when-
overdose.
when you
have we
o-
overdosed on superheroes?
Not if you ask the Marvel, mayhem, mad people.
No, if you ask them, of course not.
Yeah,
But
people that
if
love
I
that
ask-
stuff
if
said
I
it was
ask you-
fabulous.
If I ask you,
I love it.
okay. Did
but
you see?
I haven't
you didn't
seen
see
it
it.
yet.
Okay.
I think that they're going the route that happens with a lot of series in the
Yeah.
movies is they keep having to ramp up the action
Right.
and they have to introduce more and more characters.
Right.
But then that squeezes out character development and depth of story. So that's my concern is that it was good, but it wasn't.
Was it you that I had
Yeah.
a long conversation with over whether that would actually work? Whether or maybe it was my son, raising up a city to drop it would actually create a major extinction event?
There's got to be easier ways.
Yeah, I don't think it would work because he wasn't raising it out of the atmosphere. So it would not, when you let it go, it wouldn't exceed maximum velocity.
It wouldn't be fast enough.
Yeah, it wouldn't be going like when something comes from outer space, it's going 20,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
But terminal velocity in the atmosphere is like 300 miles an hour or something. So the difference between getting hit with something the size of Manhattan that's going 20,000 miles an hour and getting hit with something that's going 300 miles an hour, I don't think you get a catastrophic extinction event. I think the premise is wrong.
Well, and please don't talk anymore because I haven't seen it and I really want to. And now you're spoiling it for me.
No. That's not even in the movie.
Now
That's
I know
just-
something.
That's just a subplot in the credit roll. That
I am dying to see Jurassic World.
are you?
Oh, yeah.
I have no desire to see that movie.
I don't
can't wait.
really
It looks
either.
good.
My daughter really wants to see it. I just like it's just more dinosaurs.
Well, no, it's got Chris Pratt, and he's hilarious and kind of hot.
What a great combo.
It is.
Hilarious,
kinda.
hot, and prehistoric.
And dinosaurs. But the scene where he's riding his motorcycle, this is in all the trailers, and it's on their posters. He's riding a motorcycle through the jungle, leading a pack of raptors.
Right.
You can't ride a motorcycle through the jungle.
Yo, you're not concerned about actually training raptors.
Yeah, but it's not a real jungle. It's a fake island
So
that
he's
they made.
riding on paths that are pre-established for
Right.
motorcycle riding.
It's a dirt bike, right?
Yeah, it's a dirt bike.
Well, maybe there's a dirt path.
If it's a real jungle, you need a machete in one hand. I had the same reaction to the fourth Indiana Jones movie.
Oh, that was stupid
where
on
they have a
multiple
chase
levels.
scene
Yeah.
through the jungle in cars.
But here's the difference, and I'm with Christian on this
You
one.
barely walk through
I'm
a jungle.
totally with Christian on this one. It's an
Yes.
amusement park.
Right, it's not a
Okay.
jungle.
So I think
But it's an island.
so.
yeah, but they have
island.
been
So is
working
Universal.
on making
Okay,
it
okay.
an amusement park.
So they
Yeah.
put in some nice, smooth dirt bike trails
Right.
everywhere.
Yeah.
That are wide enough for a dirt bike to lead a pack of velociraptors.
Hey.
I just don't buy that a dirt bike can outrun a pack of velociraptors.
Oh, I do.
Oh, I think so.
You think?
Yeah.
Dirt bike can go 60, 80 miles an hour.
Yeah.
That's faster than a cheetah. There's no way those things are faster than a cheetah,
I bet.
especially over rugged terrain.
How fast are velociraptors in your world?
Well, I don't. In my world, I was thinking that they were fast as cheetahs.
Why would you think that?
Well, because they look fast.
I think they're fast over very short
Because
distances.
they're angled?
like
'cause-
hobbits.
Well, maybe it's because they have
dwarves.
stripes like that, and they kind of go like.
ostriches?
Yeah.
Ostriches are fast.
They are very
but they're like
fast.
40 miles an hour
They're
fast.
also delicious.
You know, ostriches are faster.
Really?
than-
Oh yeah.
Ostriches
Come on.
are
I had a lot
faster
of
than-
ostrich in
Hey,
South
I'm trying to
Africa.
say something here. You had
What?
a lot of ostrich in South
Yeah.
Africa. They're faster than horses. Do you know ostriches are faster than horses?
I did
for
not.
short distances? Yeah, I just had to say that. Thank you. But not if you put a jockey on them.
it's like
But not
Rain-
if you eat them.
It's like having a podcast with Rain Man.
yeah, definitely faster than horses.
What is this podcast
Definitely
about
faster than
today?
horses.
Anyway,
Okay, we're talking about movies.
Yeah.
Tomorrowland.
I saw half of Tomorrowland.
I saw the other half.
how is that
Let's compare
possible?
notes.
I went Saturday. I took two of my three kids, and we're in the movie. We're watching the movie, and they get to this scene where they all get into this capsule gizmo, and George Clooney blindfolds a girl and tells her not to pee on him, and then the capsule starts spinning or going something crazy, and then all the lights in the theater start strobing, and I thought this was like some kind of immersive Disney experience. And then everything goes black in the theater. The screen goes dark, the sound goes off, the lights are off, it's completely dark. And everyone, I thought it was part of the movie, like something weird was going on, then you wake up in Tomorrowland. And then
wouldn't that be nice?
Instead, the lights come on in the theater and everything got screwed up. And then like 10 minutes go by, some of the kids are like, that's the dumbest ending I've ever seen. And then the movie starts up again after whatever happened, and it had skipped a whole bunch of the movie. And everyone was confused, and I'm like, no, this is ridiculous. So I got a voucher to come back another day. So I haven't seen what happens. I like
it's
what I
a
saw.
very, very long cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Like a whole week or more, depending on how quickly you can come back. I saw it. I didn't think it looked that great from the previews.
Yeah.
But Brad Bird is so great
Right.
that I thought, well, maybe it'll surprise me and really be great.
What? Don't ruin the ending for me. But what?
Did
Did
you-
you walk away more impressed or less than you
It's
expected?
not great. No, actually less. Oh. Less than I expected.
What about the message? Forget like the overall movie.
message?
It's about like optimism.
Yeah, be optimistic, kids, because then global warming won't happen. Something like that. Then nothing bad will happen. There's a doomsday clock. Then they figured out, George Clooney's figured out that basically all the terrible things that could ever happen, wars, global warming, floods, you name it, is going to happen in 58 days. Why? Well, how that could all happen at once, we don't know. We never really get that far. And the problem is that people they believe it's going to happen. So it's become a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you give people negative ideas, it reinforces negative behaviors. So if you're optimist, and here's the saying from the movie. The saying from the movie that her father tells him is, there are two wolves. One,
I remember this.
that's one of them right now, my dog. One wolf is despair and pessimism. The other wolf is hope and optimism.
No. It's light and hope.
Oh, light and hope.
And I remember that
Darkness
moment because
and
I'm sitting next to
despair.
my daughter, Lucy, who's
Yeah.
7.
Yeah.
And I lean over to her and I said, "You remember what your name means? Name Lucy means light.
Light. Okay.
Her middle name is Hope."
Oh.
So it was like, you're the wolf.
Okay.
You get it?
So and then you ask the question, which one wins? The one you feed.
Well,
Dum.
I heard a thing with Brad Bird or whatever, and he wanted to do this movie because there's so many disaster movies now.
Yeah.
About the end of
Right.
the world and all these.
Right.
Every city's being destroyed or lifted up
What's
in the air
the
and thrown
opposite
down.
of a disaster?
Well, it's not. But his point was back when he was a kid or in the '60s and the World's Fair and all that stuff. It was all about the optimism of the future, and that's what Tomorrowland was about when
Right.
Disney created it. And his argument is, it's fine that we look at the problems we're facing and recognize the gravity of what it is we're up against, but because as a culture we've lost optimism, we're not ever talking about how do we solve these things. We're just kind of surrendering to the inevitability of it all. So the movie's supposed to be about optimism.
You know what the movie is really about?
Making money.
Well, Disney wanted a movie based on Tomorrowland, and they said to Brad Bird, if you make it, we will give you a $170 million, $180 million budget. You just got to come up with something.
Because that part of their
'cause we-
vacation kingdom isn't doing
We
very
want a
well.
Tomorrowland movie. And he said, all right, well, that's the easiest movie I've ever had greenlit. And he made it, but they didn't really have a movie there.
So one of the guys who wrote it is named Doc Jensen, Jeff Jensen, but he goes by Doc Jensen. And he's a Christian guy out in Hollywood. He writes for Entertainment Weekly, I think.
Yeah.
And I've gotten connected with him on Facebook, and I know his church and his pastor and stuff like that. But that movie and his titling and all that is why I had to change the name of Futureville.
Yeah, right.
So
right.
I didn't know it was a Christian guy behind all that, but I thought, maybe we should have him on the show and
he
interview
wasn't
him.
really behind it all.
Well, no, but he's helped write the script.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have him on the show and see if we can ask him about
I think Buddy wants in your
But
lap.
he's trying to climb into my lap. What disappointed me was, all right, buddy. Oh, you're stuck. Okay. What disappointed me, hi, buddy. Wave to everybody at home. Hi, everybody. I'm Buddy. Okay.
How's your dad?
Okay, Brad Bird has made 4 movies,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
It? Can you name them?
I
Yeah.
can't.
Okay, Iron Giant.
Ratatouille.
Wait, in order.
Oh, sorry.
Iron Giant, The Incredibles,
Yeah.
Ratatouille,
Ghost Protocol.
Mission Impossible 4, 3, whatever it was, Ghost
Right.
Protocol. The worst reviewed of those movies is 93% fresh.
Yeah.
That's his worst reviewed movie he's ever made is 93%, which is like stellar. Very few movies are over, 85. This one is 50%
Well-
fresh. So he just took a 43-point drop in.
Because it didn't
this
really
is
have
not
much
Olympic
of a story.
figure skating. It isn't like give him a break, man. There's always going to be one East German judge in there that's going to give you a low score. You just have to kind of throw that one out.
It had to be clear to people as that movie was coming together, this isn't really gelling.
Okay.
Is it just too late? Is it too late?
Probably.
I just don't know.
Once you've been
how.
given a budget and you've been told by Disney,
And a release date. Here's your
Yeah.
release date, and here's $180 million. Go.
I
Yeah.
heard that he passed on Star Wars Episode 7 in order to do this movie.
Well, that would be truly depressing.
Well, we haven't seen
hadn't heard
Episode
that.
7 yet. Maybe it'll.
Yeah, I guess
Be
so.
great.
The other thing, though, that a few people have pointed out is that he seems to have a recurring theme of exceptionalism in his films. If you remember The
Yes.
Incredibles,
Yeah.
The Incredibles, the only negative that some people brought up was this notion that he seemed bitter that everyone was supposed to be treated like they're all equal, and there are special people that have special abilities, and when the son says in The Incredibles, if everyone's special,
No one is.
that means no one is.
And he's got a point.
And some people have said, is this a personal soapbox for Brad Bird?
And then you have the cooking rat in Ratatouille who's special.
If everyone's special, no one is. And in Tomorrowland, there are special agents that are actually robots, but that are going out to find the exceptional people, the dreamers, the ones who can change the world and gather them together. And again, it's the notion of, you deserve this pin. You're exceptional. It's an interesting theme.
So what's the point here?
What's the
Do you think
point?
he's right or wrong, or is that bad or good?
Well, are all people the same? No. It's just it's kind of politically incorrect.
Yeah.
to say that.
But it's very American.
That some people are more exceptional than
Well,
others.
yeah, America's predicated on a meritocracy. That if you are
Yeah,
good at
that's
something,
true.
if you work hard at something,
That's
if you are
true.
exceptional, then you deserve greater reward.
I also couldn't help but notice that in Tomorrowland, when you actually get there and you see all the people, you know, they are as multicultural as you would expect.
Yeah, I noticed the Indian family on the train.
Yeah, Indian family on the train. But there's no evidence of religious diversity.
You don't know that.
No one's wearing a headscarf in the Muslim sense. There's one woman wearing a scarf, but there's no crosses, there's no headscarves, there's no hajibs in the background, there's no
Oh, come on.
there's no, if you were really gathering
No yarmulkes?
the most exceptional people from around the world, wouldn't there be a few Buddhist monks in the
I
background?
also didn't see any overweight people.
Yeah, well, apparently that's not exceptional either.
Yeah. So what are you supposed to represent? Every form of diversity?
The future, if you want to be accurate, the future, we're so committed to diversity, but not in body shape or religion, or even conservative to liberal.
Yeah.
So the future that we're willing to portray is a Benetton's ad. It's a Gap ad. It's Apple advertising,
Right.
where it's a very specific kind of diversity.
So I make this argument in one of the chapters of Futureville. Actually, in the same chapter, I talk about Disney's Tomorrowland idea. But the argument that the problem we have is not that we don't believe in the future, it's that we don't agree on what the future should be.
Right.
Which is what leads to all the conflicts between different groups of people and ideologies and religions and on and on. So Brad Bird's idea on a really superficial level about optimism toward the future is a great one, but where things kind of go off the rails is whose vision of the future are we supposed to be optimistic about? And
Right.
that's what
I think Brad Bird's.
well, that's what we fight about politically. It's what we fight about culturally. It's what we fight about when we talk about
Right.
ISIS or the West. It's all about whose vision of the future should be adapted.
I wonder if part of the reason the movie did not appeal to people broadly is the same reason that Walt's original vision for Epcot or Tomorrowland itself has stopped appealing to people. You know,
Which is?
that we're no longer optimistic about the future.
Yeah.
So you can't get us excited about being optimistic about the future when we aren't.
I think it's because we like to see George Clooney dressed a little bit more,
I don't think
Like Ocean's 12.
I don't think George Clooney was right for that role.
yeah.
You know, even a simple way. I remember being 7 when I went to Disney World and Space Mountain, and I
Did
remember.
you, by the way, notice Space Mountain in Tomorrowland?
I didn't notice,
I did,
but I heard about it
I saw
afterwards.
it, yeah.
And I remember going to Space Mountain, and my favorite was the end where it showed you the wonderful things that would happen in the future. And I remember my dad saying to me, when you grow up and you're a mommy, you're going to order your groceries from your kitchen like that. And you're
you
going to.
do.
I have ordered from Peapod. It's true. And then, there were the CDs that was playing
Yeah.
or a DVD, whatever. And I remember as a little kid thinking, wow, all these things to look forward to in the future. I can't even imagine now, like with all the just thinking technologically, with all the technical stuff we have, it's hard for me to really even imagine
Right.
what's on the horizon
Self-driving cars.
that way.
Wars over water.
But it's hard to know what's going to be real and actual and possible as
Right.
opposed to what's in the movies.
I think what we're really realizing about the future is that possible does not mean feasible.
Yes.
And that's where when you get into space travel and putting people on Mars, say it's possible we could do that. It's not economically feasible.
Or politically.
So much of right. It is, one of the early urban planners. His idea of future cities were skyscrapers, huge skyscrapers, but instead of driving to them, everyone would fly.
Like the Jetsons.
In their own small plane. And so the skyscrapers and they actually designed them with circular landing pads in between the skyscrapers where you'd come down and land, in a circle because it's got to be fairly compact. That's a wonderful idea. That's about as practical as something that's highly impractical because
That's a great metaphor.
Thank you. I don't like pulling metaphors out of nowhere. I would never, ever do that. It's not practical because everyone would crash into each other. You can't have everyone in an airplane. It's not manageable. But it was
I don't know.
fun.
It worked in the Jetsons. Worked really nicely.
It's not real.
I know, but
Christian, that's not real. Okay,
But
speaking...
can I say one other thing?
Yes.
But the thing is, and it's not just that. I feel like, when we were growing up, our parents thought our kids are going to inherit a better world, We've stopped thinking that. Like, I fear for the
Right,
future
right.
that my kids are going to have, whether it's economically or politically or,
Right.
whatever. And so I just look ahead and I think it's only going to get worse, not it's going to get better in every way. And I do think that has how can you be optimistic about that?
Right. And that's, I guess... I mean, Walt would have a hard time if he was alive
You think you would?
maintaining his optimism in the face of the overall cultural sentiment right now. And he would try to make a movie like Tomorrowland, although I don't think it would have been as negative. And that was one of the critiques, is it was awfully negative for being a movie about optimism, because there was so much focus on the wars coming and the end of the world coming, and this is going to be terrible. But if only we can start dreaming again. We can... Really? You really think that?
I think the very first article I ever published for Leadership Journal was called Rethinking Tomorrowland,
Wow.
which was actually about...
So this movie brings you full
It does.
circle.
It brings me full
in
circle.
Your career.
But it was about Walt's original vision for Tomorrowland as being this forecast of this very optimistic future. And then what happened as American society became more and more pessimistic about the future, and how Disney had to go and redesign Tomorrowland at Disney World and then at Disneyland. And they realized they could no longer inspire people with a vision of the future, so they did a retro future. And so now Tomorrowland is framed as the world of tomorrow that never was is finally here. So they're taking you back to, say, the 1930s and 40s and projecting what they thought the future was going to be without actually...
It's being sentimental about how optimistic we used to be.
Exactly.
Don't you remember when we were optimistic?
That's what it is. It really is. And so I drew a parallel to the church world, where for so many decades it was about the next new innovative thing in ministry, the new form of worship, or the new this, new that. And then we interviewed a bunch of pastors about their burnout of always trying to keep up with the newest, hottest trend, and how some people are ready to be done with that and move back to old ancient liturgies
Right.
and church
That's why all the
calendar and stuff like
hipsters are
that.
buying organs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
vinyl.
record. I was going to say record
organs
players.
and vinyl.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And an original generation of the monorail, the first.
I want one of those so
They
bad.
just put a bird on it.
Speaking of visions of the future, anyone see Mad Max?
No,
Fury Road?
not yet.
Only my children.
Have you seen any movies this summer? No, nothing?
Well, it hasn't started. It's only June
I got to
1st.
tell you, that's worth seeing.
What? You cannot believe that
It's
Mad.
the highest rated movie of the year so far. 98% fresh.
I don't
Is it-
think it's very kid friendly.
It was rated R.
Is it
Right.
I
optimistic?
didn't say it was a kid's movie.
Is it optimistic or pessimistic about the future?
It's not very optimistic. Well, it's
It's-
post-apocalyptic.
that's right.
It's
So the-
dystopian.
Right.
So it
So
seems
what does
more
that mean?
realistic because they've run out of water. They've spoiled the earth.
Mm-hmm.
They've poisoned the soil.
Mm-hmm.
You can't grow anything, and it's people just competing for resources. But it is being hailed as
So
wildly.
it sounds like Detroit.
It's kind of like Detroit with cars. Yeah, so it is Detroit. It's being
Poor Detroit.
hailed as wildly feminist.
I've heard this.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's funny because about halfway through the movie, you start saying to yourself, wow, men are terrible creatures. What?
But-
If we can only just get rid of the men.
Are there any bad women in the movie?
No, not one.
Not one.
No. Women, good. Men, but there are two good men.
Mad Max?
Yeah.
He's just mad.
Is that a spoiler? Well, he's independent. He's an independent. He's not part of the system, and he is just looking out for himself at first, but eventually he kind of broadens that to look out for some women.
Do they need his help?
They actually do.
Ooh.
Yes, but one of them does very well on her own because she's the heroine.
Yeah.
But she's trying.
Mad Maxine?
No, I don't think so. No, This,
Maybe she's called Furiosa
Just
because
coincidental.
of Fury Road.
That's weird.
Yeah, but she is trying to smuggle out of it's a dictator who controls everything and controls access to water, controls access to food.
What's that dictator's name? Do you remember?
Immortan Joe.
Okay.
Immortan Joe, because he's viewed as immortal and godlike.
And just a regular Joe.
Yeah, so the names are all related to character traits in some way. Anyway, she is trying to smuggle out his breeders, the attractive young women that he keeps as breeding slaves.
Like concubines.
Yes,
Okay.
basically she's stealing his concubines.
Actually, they're just mares.
and trying to give them a new life
Okay.
and escape.
So
with
it's
them.
an anti-sex trafficking movie.
It is. It's an anti-sex trafficking, anti-resource domination. So it's. I think it's anti-Walmart. I think it's anti just about everything.
Anti-power
Well,
and domination.
George Miller is very much of a kind of a progressive. If you've seen Happy Feet or Happy Feet,
No.
like wild.
That was-
I'm
dumb
turned off
movie.
by feet.
Dumb movie.
I didn't say do you have Happy Feet. So did you see? You didn't see
No,
Happy
I'm
Feet
turned off by all feet.
or Happy Feet too, even if they're on penguins. You don't even like penguin feet.
Have you ever been to the penguin exhibit at the zoo?
Yeah, it stinks.
They smell.
really smelly.
Can you imagine how bad their feet must smell if that's just how the
Maybe
air
that's the
around
best
them
smelling
smells?
part of their bodies.
I
Oh
doubt
no, on a
that.
penguin though, it's like right next to their butts.
Exactly.
They're like right. Yeah,
and
never mind.
they balance rotten eggs on them and everything. It's just not. I don't
This
want
podcast has gone
anything
off
to
the
do with penguin
rails.
feet.
Yeah, okay, they're highly environmental. Well, Babe, did you see Babe?
Oh, yeah.
Did you see Babe Pig in the City?
Yes.
Okay, there's a lot of progressive ideas in those.
Those were
movies.
his movies?
Yes.
He's the Mad Max guy and he did those movies?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
And do you know that he did the first Mad Max movies when he was 40, and that was
Wow.
30 years ago.
Wow.
Wow.
He's 70.
So now-
he
but
did
now-
this crazy action movie like you've never seen before, like something you've never seen in your life. This movie, I'm telling you, and he did it when he was 70.
So has he had this like feminist awakening or has this always been
No,
part
I
of
think
who
he's
he
always
is?
been that way.
Is this why he had Tina Turner Beyond the Thunderdome?
Yeah, because she's a feminist superhero.
Yeah, 'cause
I don't
she's-
know.
Did you like this movie? Is that what
Yes.
you're saying? You really
Yes,
liked it?
I really liked it. I've actually seen it twice.
Why did you really like it?
Did you go by yourself?
The first time, but that was a while ago. And then my mom wanted to see it. My mom wanted to see it because my sister loves it so much, she's seen it twice by herself.
Is this like
What?
she wants it played at her funeral kind of
She's
movie?
a feminist.
Yeah.
Your sister's a feminist?
Every female in my family is a feminist.
I am so not a
Of
feminist.
varying degrees. Oh, there are ways where you are.
You think?
Do you think women should be paid the same amount for equal work?
yes.
Okay, that's feminist.
No, that just means I believe that women should be paid the same amount.
Okay. Whatever you say. That's part of.
I am so not a feminist.
Okay.
Yeah, that's because it has political overtones for you that you
No,
don't like.
genuinely? Okay,
'Cause you
this
think you
is-
have to be a Democrat to be a feminist.
No, and I
That's
think
what
this
you
is
think.
why I still have
Or you
have
have to be pro-abortion to be a feminist. Is that what you think?
I think
Do you
there's
think
a
women should have the right to vote?
yes.
You're a feminist.
I do think that I think there's an attitude that goes along with the word feminist or people that call themselves feminists that
can
I
be,
have met.
yes.
And so do I believe in some ideas that the feminist movement put forth? Yes, I do. But by the same token, I don't agree with the statement that all men are bad and women are better and
Well, that's a more radical feminism. Feminism isn't saying that women are better. It's saying that women are equal.
and in some
That's generally the
instances,
idea.
I don't necessarily feel like women are equal.
Well, they're not. They're not equal in upper body strength.
Right, they're different.
On a pound per
I think
pound
I
basis.
think when you look at men and women, there are good things about both, and I think they complement each
So
other.
that's nice of you to say. You're not anti either gender. That's very nice.
I'm not.
I have nothing to say in this topic.
Why?
Because what do I have to say?
I don't know. What do you have to
Nothing.
say?
I have nothing to say.
Really?
Nothing.
You don't have an opinion on feminism?
No, I don't.
Wow. That's really something. This ties into our next story very well. So I recommend, not for your kids, but Mad Max Fury Road is it's an amazing movie. He's wanted to make it for 10 years.
Okay, but what makes it amazing?
Okay, he started out, he described the movie he wanted to make. Well, It played at Cannes, at the Cannes Film Festival.
There's a lot of garbage that plays at Cannes.
Yeah, but it's typically low-budget, independent garbage.
Right.
Not big Hollywood blockbusters.
They always have one.
Okay, but it had already come out in the U.S., and so there wasn't even a premiere. They actually liked it so much that they...
Okay, well, what's so good about it? Is it the action? Is it the story? Is it the acting?
The story is so simple. The story is basically, we are trying to get away from him.
Okay.
He is trying to stop us. That's the story.
Great. So what's so remarkable about this movie?
The action is freaky. What they do is freaky, and he started
So it's
out,
the spectacle of it all.
Yes.
It's not the social commentary or the inspiring.
No.
It's just things
You've
blow up.
never seen anything like
And
this
people, I
before.
saw the preview. People are on big long poles on moving machines.
Yeah, but he went to his producer before he started, and he said, "By the way, I want to do this with as little CGI as possible. I want to do these stunts real."
Okay.
And his producer said, "You are going to kill people."
How many died?
I don't think anyone died. I think they figured out how to do it. But it's real. It's just freaky. You got to go see it. You'll change your tune.
But your sister likes it so much because it has a feminist
She likes the feminist
agenda.
message.
She likes the story.
So you're not saying you're endorsing the message, you're endorsing the violence.
I agree. Honestly, I think if civil society broke down, and what would generate that would be, serious resource shortage and or serious depopulation.
So this movie is a preview of what's going to happen at the end of Western civilization.
Well, if you look, okay, what is life like living in the mountains of Afghanistan?
My son can tell you.
It's warlords.
Yeah.
It's strongmen.
Right.
It's the biggest jerk with the most followers.
It's middle school.
Yes, and that's what this is. And I think that this shows you, if you take away, we don't understand how much we have gained by, kind of the almost universal, at least in the Western world, near universal adoption of the rule of law.
Right.
Of actually saying, no, it isn't about who's the strongest. It's about laws that we're all going to agree on and agree to live by and enforce on ourselves. And we take it for granted now because we grew up with it. But you go to Afghanistan, you go to or what the Islamic State is doing, and then even a movie like this says, all right, this is underlying human nature. There's something.
If you take off the veneer of society, this is the raw
If you take away
ugliness.
the agreement to live under law,
social contract.
this is what happens.
Yeah.
And it is, for the most part, men behaving badly and women being victimized. And that's what you see in most very primitive
true.
cultures. So it is,
That's because they're stronger and have
And
more
you're
power.
endorsing it.
So that I endorse because I believe that's actually true.
Okay.
Yes. And there are men's groups that are complaining about this movie, saying that
Men's groups. Men's groups are
I don't know
they're
what a men's
sports
group is.
leagues.
I think it's ESPN.
Yeah,
I don't
what's
know
a
what
men's
men's
group?
group is? But they're people for the ethical treatment of men. I don't know. I don't know what the group is. The Anti-Defamation Men's League. Whatever it is, there are people complaining, saying, "Wow, this really makes men look terrible."
But you don't agree. You think men
No, it
really are that
does.
terrible.
It does.
But you think men are that terrible.
I think it portrays fairly realistically what happens when testosterone runs amok without any moderating factors.
Okay, so would you say Mad Max Fury Road is to men what Mean Girls is to women?
Oh, good Lord. If I have never watched Mean Girls, so I can't really speak to that. Are there car chases?
I don't know. I haven't seen it either.
Do the women smack into each other on long poles?
Well, but
Not
that's
on long
but
poles,
that's
but I
male.
think-
That's male violence. But
Yes,
women,
female
female violence.
violence.
It's not always physical. It can be like emotion. Louis
Yeah.
C.K. talks about this. He has 2 daughters.
Yeah.
And he says how boys will break your stuff.
Yeah.
But how girls will break you.
Yes,
Like they will
they will mess with
destroy
your mind.
Exactly. And
His
that,
bit on girls is hilarious.
yeah, and we cannot endorse anything Louis C.K. does because it's
No,
foul
I
and,
really
and
like
wrong.
him
but
too,
I
but
think
he's
he's a
very foul.
brilliant social commentator.
Yeah.
So
okay. So this leads us to, speaking of gender.
Yes.
can't wait. Your favorite topic.
Please tell me it's not about clothes.
You know, there's people upset with you online, Phil.
What are they upset
What?
about?
They think you're too preoccupied with gender and modesty issues.
Oh, that's ridiculous. There's a new underwear company.
Oh my gosh. Phil. Seriously,
This
we're
is funny.
not even going to talk about it.
No. The sporty underwear company, Play Out. That's the name of the underwear company.
Play out?
Yeah, I don't even know what that means.
I don't either.
Which values
Means play outside.
values comfort in your underwear.
Play outside in your underwear. I
out,
don't know.
not play
through.
Play through. That's weak underwear right there.
Which values comfort over constriction, bills itself as the world's first gender-neutral underwear.
Okay. If there's anything that should never be gender neutral, it's underwear.
Amen to
The
that.
Intimate line was launched last year on Valentine's Day after the designer, a French neuroscientist and researcher, grew exasperated with current underwear offerings. She and her partner met in New York, and she was trying to buy underwear and could not find anything that she wanted to wear. She says a lot of underwear has been made specifically for the male gaze, so that means it's not necessarily the most comfortable.
Okay,
so that
fair
she
enough.
went on to make more comfortable underwear.
For
That's
women,
great.
yeah.
The year-old line exists at the convergence of two emerging trends that challenge traditional beauty standards: gender-neutral clothing and, shockingly, comfortable underwear. The New York Times recently cited sales figures showing that thongs are declining in popularity.
Oh, that is a sign of the end of Western civilization right there.
And so
Have you ever tried to wear one? They're horrible.
No comment.
his lawyers would not allow him to answer that question. And
Like I said,
so-called-
I passed Spanish.
Oh, man. And so-called granny panties or fuller styles have seen an increase in sales. Meanwhile,
This is why people aren't having kids anymore.
Now, and I will tell you, granny panties are way more comfortable, but my husband makes fun of me if I ever try to
well,
wear them.
their sales are exploding.
Yeah, it's because they're more comfortable.
Meanwhile, some analysts cite slumping sales of Spanx, the super tight underwear intended to slim and smooth women's waistlines, as a shift toward natural-looking bodies, curves, and bumps included. Which is all,
That's fine. Great.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But trying to design underwear that everyone can wear seems a little bit like a fool's errand.
Doesn't it? Isn't the move in marketing
Especially
in
since
general
we go to
toward
the bathroom differently.
toward customization? I mean, goodness, they even have
Yeah.
diapers that are engineered for boys or
That's
girls.
right.
But isn't customization the big thing? Like, you want something that's uniquely contoured to fit your
Yeah.
whatever. So why wouldn't you want that on your undercarriage?
Because it's cool to be androgynous. They have it said in their runway shows for this underwear line. Because of course, why design underwear if you're not going to have a runway
yeah, but
show?
runway models are basically all 12-year-old boy bodies.
They're choosing models that are very hard to tell what gender they are.
Yeah,
And then they just wear the same.
that's dumb.
So there's part of this that I would applaud.
I don't even understand why they have to make it unique to human bodies. Why don't they just make them interspecial? Why can't a chimpanzee wear the
Well,
underwear?
they don't
just
wear
in-
underwear.
Well, sure they do.
Interspecial?
No, they
Is that a
don't.
word?
They wear
Interspecies?
They wear diapers
Yeah.
if they live in houses.
So why can't we create just this universal?
And what monkey doesn't want to live in a house?
I think all primates should wear the same underwear.
Oh, you know what? Honestly, I'm just going to put a message out that people should not listen to this podcast. This is not worth your time.
This is good stuff.
This is not
This is good stuff.
our best podcast.
But I figured something out this week.
What's that, Phil?
I figured something out, and it's kind of a big thing.
Here we go.
That you like to talk about clothing and
No,
Are
'cause
you having gender reassignment surgery?
No. We just saw the picture of Bruce Willis on the cover
Jenner.
of Bruce
actually
Willis.
his name is
Bruce Jenner.
His name
Sorry.
is not Bruce
On
any
the
longer.
cover of,
It is
Caitlin?
Caitlyn.
Caitlyn Jenner, yeah.
Vanity
And
Fair.
That was a little Vanity Fair, yeah. So that was, whatever that is. I've been trying to figure out. Okay, this is going back to. Well, it's not really going back because we're talking about it right now. But human sexuality.
Here we go.
All right. I'm sorry. If you have young kids, hopefully, you've already turned the podcast off.
We have nobody listening right now. We've lost everyone. So go on. You're just talking to me and
I've
Scott.
talked about that I'm confused that we've rejected Christian sexual ethics, but yet, and so we're sending the mixed message that that sexuality means nothing. Do whatever you want. to wait a minute, you did something that you weren't supposed to do. Now that means everything, And this week with the Duggar family, you hear about?
I didn't hear about that.
Oh my goodness.
You didn't hear
What
about
happened?
the Duggar family?
No.
Well, they're off the air. That's what happened to the Duggar family this week.
Because there are too many of them? Would they get too big for that
No,
camera?
because the oldest Duggar, it turns out when he was 14, he fondled several of his sisters and other young girls. Suppose like 5 different.
I could
young
make jokes
girls.
about this, but I don't think it's really
No, I don't.
something you joke about.
No, I don't think it is. And they're not. And this is interesting because the talk is now that the show should just be gone. And this happened before the show even started. And the parents dealt with it. They found out about it. They had serious talks with him. They talked with their pastors at their church about it. They actually sent him away to work construction for a while, to like a little boarding school. You go off and, get some exercise and come back and talk about this. They talked to a police officer friend of theirs when he came back from doing that, and then they kind of kept it quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And now the fact that they've kept it quiet is leading people to blame the parents. In particular, the criticism has been that the parents should have reported him to the police immediately, which kind of just struck me as bizarre. That if he was 14, and unfortunately this is Josh Duggar, who was the president of a part of the Family Research Council,
And there's the real issue.
and so he's already had to resign that, so he's lost his job, and his picture, he's 27 now, so his picture is all over the news with the words child molester under it, even though when that happened he was a child.
Yeah.
And his life is just screwed pretty much forever. The show may be canceled. They're talking about whether the other married couple, the ones that just got married on the show, whether they can spin them off into a show to keep it going. And other people, someone just wrote an open letter to all the Duggar children saying, I know what you've gone through being a part of a cult, so let us help you escape.
Wow.
And so people are kind of going nuts. And I think it's partly because they're so conservative and so religious that the assumption is, there's evil behind closed doors, and aha, here it is. But it's freaky how people have jumped so aggressively, on the parents for not reporting their 14-year-old to the police because he inappropriately touched, a couple of girls when he was a child. And they want to get rid of the show completely because it's
tainted the reputation of the family.
Right. So
Then we'd have to report almost every 14-year-old boy.
I know, because 14 is when your hormones kick in and you're kind of out of control.
You do
and
some stupid
you do
things.
stupid stuff. It's
Here's-
like every 14-year-old boy could be in prison.
There's a lot of lessons here, but one of them is, I don't want to judge anybody's motives, but I have a hard time thinking of any scenario in which I would want my family to be on television,
Well, for sure.
Right.
like in a reality TV show, because
Yeah.
it's just what good comes
they've
of
been
it.
on TV since 2008.
Yeah, but
It's a long time.
That is a crazy long
But
time.
every family, you don't have to have 19 kids. Every family has got baggage and
Right.
malfunction
My
and
assumption
all
is,
kinds of stuff in
honestly,
it.
My
And
assumption is they honestly think of it as, well, this is how we're going to witness to the world.
fine, but there's a cost to be paid when you do that through the media.
Yeah, I
and
think they're
and you
paying
have
the
to weigh
cost
that.
now.
It's the same thing like anybody who would run for the presidency, who has children.
Right.
You go, okay, maybe you think you can do some good in that role, maybe you can, but do you realize what you are going to put your family and children through? And it's
Right.
just hard for me to think that the good outweighs the cost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, what about the Duck Dynasty clan? Because they're all adults. Is that different?
well, they have a lot of their kids, and I don't know what
Yeah,
those,
they don't appear
You know
very
what? A
much.
lot of their kids don't. They
don't
and they
show up very
don't.
much.
Yeah. They
Yeah,
don't.
so is that okay?
Well, I don't. I just think it's.
What about like this podcast?
I think life and family and marriage and children is hard enough. You throw a camera in the whole thing and
Right.
broadcast it to the world, and you're making it exponentially more
There
difficult
was a piece.
for everybody.
There was a piece on Christianity Today. You know Christianity Today?
Heard of it?
Yeah, about the Duggar case,
Mm-hmm.
saying that it shouldn't come back on TV, even though many conservatives are rising up because they're fans. Of
Why
the Duggar
shouldn't
family.
it come back?
You don't read your own magazine?
Because some people have said, some people are saying, well, just let them come back on, and then we can watch them kind of work through this. And this person was saying, And this person was a reality TV critic, who wrote specifically about reality TV. Reality TV is a horrible format for dealing with anything of significance.
That's true.
Really?
So they could not possibly deal with this in the context of the cameras running.
Right.
So just let them go away and deal with this.
Well, that's
That
the
was
whole
basically
point. Is
it.
real life is hard and difficult, and it never gets easier when you put a camera on it.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. But again, remember the story in CT, Christianity Today, where they let a convicted sex offender who was a former youth pastor write a column?
Oh, do I remember it?
Yes.
Yes, I
Okay.
do.
So he was a youth pastor. He had an affair with a girl in his youth group. Okay.
Right.
Clearly, that's bad.
Off
I think we
limits.
can all agree that
That's
that's
bad.
bad.
Right.
But the people, and he wrote from the point of view of this is a cautionary tale.
Right.
This is where I went wrong. Let me help you.
You're right.
And people.
And he ended up in prison.
Yeah, he's in prison for 2 or 3 years. People slammed the magazine for letting him say anything.
Right.
For letting him have a voice. Because why? Because he's a monster. He's a predator. You should never give a voice.
And people are upset that there wasn't a voice given to the victim in this case, even though first of all, it was published by Leadership Journal, and it was intended for
That's your magazine.
and it was intended for a
Way to
Leadership
turn the
Journal.
knife, Phil.
Leadership Journal is a journal for pastors by pastors. It's primarily pastors who write in it, and they're speaking to their peers in ministry. So this was a pastor who obviously made horrible decisions, criminal
Right.
decisions,
Right.
and ended up paying the price for that and
Right.
creating a huge mess for this poor victim. And he was writing to other pastors, warning them, don't do what I did. The problem is, in the era of digital media, that article went online and was read by thousands and thousands of
Everybody.
people who aren't pastors, including many people who have been victims
Right.
of sexual abuse by
Right.
people in authority in the church. And so that's what created the controversy, is why are you giving this guy a platform to speak and not the victim?
Right.
And it was, I think, an editorial miscalculation, because in the past, the thinking was, well, this is just for pastors. And if it had only been in a print magazine that only, a couple, maybe 100,000 pastors saw,
Right.
no one would ever pay any attention to it.
But part of what struck me was because for the most part, we no longer will say as a society that affairs are wrong. We don't want to say that.
I will say that.
Well, yeah, you don't.
You're not
represent-
society.
You don't represent society. So the problem wasn't that he had an affair. The problem was that she hadn't turned 18.
Well, it's the idea of consent.
Yes.
Anything between
Yes.
consensual adults, everyone's like, anything goes.
Anything goes.
But
and nothing has a negative impact.
If it's
on
non-consensual,
anybody.
it's criminal.
Then not only it's criminal, but you're a monster.
Yeah.
You're a monster. And this was, in fact, consensual. It was just not legally consensual.
Well, yeah, but that's the whole point of having an age of legal consent.
Yes, which in some Western countries is 13,
This is true.
ironically. But anyway,
Well,
that's,
is that true in France?
I think France is 14.
I can't speak to that until I get there.
Can you find out and report
I will find
back?
out. when I get
Anyway,
there.
okay, so here's what occurred to me, because I've been trying
yeah,
to
we're still not at your point.
Yes, because
Okay.
I think,
What's
and
your
I
point?
have to wrap it up.
Yeah, you do.
But this is big. So
Go ahead,
it'll
Phil.
only take 2 minutes. Because I've been saying, well, if you're a young boy, I can understand that you're confused by the messages you get from the culture, that sex is meaningless. Wait a minute, you touched her when she was asleep. You're a monster, but it's meaningless. No, it's meaningful. And it occurred to me, I finally figured it out.
Oh, you have.
Great, because I have an almost 14-year-old boy.
As a culture, we have decided, because we rejected Christian sexual morality, that sex is incredibly meaningful and must be inside this one specific box of safety. There's one safe place for sexuality to be expressed. That was the Christian ethic. And then we all said, oh, that's so stupid and oppressive and backwards, and sex is fine, and it's like playing ping pong or eating a burrito. No more meaningful than that. Unless somebody wasn't consenting to something, and then you're a hideous monster and you should probably be shot. The issue isn't about sexuality. I just figured this out like 2 days ago. The issue is about sovereignty. The issue is about everyone having the right to set their own rules and make their own self-definition. So if you're a girl and you decide that you think sex is meaningless and you're going to just, give away sexuality to perfect strangers, there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you decided.
Yeah, it's a libertarian view of
It's
self-identity.
It's you making your own morality.
That's right.
So the new sexual ethic has nothing to do with sexuality and everything to do with sovereignty over your own right and wrong.
It's individualism and self-actualization.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now when you look at that filter, when you say, okay, so we've decided, like in this case of, you had contact with an underage girl, we've decided that you have to be 18 before you can make decisions about your own sovereignty.
Well,
so you can't decide.
Yeah. But what's interesting is your argument I totally agree with.
Okay.
But when you extrapolate it out to other areas of our lives beyond just sexuality, it gets really interesting how it falls down politically. So, for example, a progressive argument for abortion is the exact same thing. You should have no right to tell me what to do with my body.
Right.
That's between me and my doctor, and hands off, right?
Right.
And a lot of conservatives would say, no, but that's a life, and society has an interest in protecting it. On the flip side, you go to a conservative, Republican, libertarian point of view, and it's, well, get your hands off my taxes. The government should have nothing to say in my child's education, or I should have a right to carry a gun anywhere I want because that's individual libertarian freedom. So these are universally held American values. We just selectively apply them to different areas of life and then draw lines around them.
But what we're really rejecting, here's what we're really rejecting is institutional morality, where any institution says this is what's right and wrong for everyone.
I think we're rejecting any sort of absolute truth also.
Yeah, that kind of goes in there. So there's no morality that would apply to everyone.
Right.
Because you self-define. So if Bruce Jenner says he's Caitlyn Jenner, he is.
He is.
But what's
and
interesting
you're obligated to call him that.
is the things we collectively agree on as boundaries and universal whatever, that's what we call society. That's culture.
Right.
And if you take it away and say, everyone do your own thing, suddenly you're in Mad Max.
So the problem, good connection. The problem for young boys growing up is that in pop culture, in popular music, on popular television shows, most women have decided to give away their sexuality. There's very little, I don't do that. Almost every woman on TV or in movies gives away their sexuality.
Because they were written and cast by a man.
Right. So maybe, I guess. So then boys grow up and go into the world and assume that's true of the women they're bumping into at frat parties and the women they're bumping into in church youth groups, and that all women have decided to give away their sexuality for free because there's nothing wrong about that. And then they find out that's not the case after the fact, and they find themselves in prison suddenly saying,
So
what the heck
the
happened?
rapist is actually the victim.
We're all the victim. We're all the victim. No, in most cases, it's not violent rape. In most cases,
It's date rape.
Yeah, it's. I thought there was a piece on NPR on This American Life about the consent classes they're now teaching
Seriously?
to college freshmen at big state universities because they can't figure out when has a girl said yes. Like, how many times does she have to say yes? Is it over and over again? How drunk can she be before she can't give consent no matter what?
Do they have to take like a breathalyzer?
So they're having, because boys are coming out of the youth culture of everybody has sex, and now they're discovering, but you can get in bad trouble. You can ruin your life if you do it wrong.
I had that class.
Did you?
Well, it wasn't really a class, but my first week as a freshman in college, we had this whole big seminar on all this sort of stuff. And that was 20 years ago, more than that.
All right, well.
So, but I think it's gotten a little bit more complicated now.
Hey, here's the reality about human sexuality. And if you don't care which underwear you pick up a pair and they just kind of fit down there, I think we need to remember that men and women are different members of a society that still needs to work together and love each other and don't come untethered from some sense that there's morality that governs us all.
That almost made sense.
And Mad Max. See you next week.
Bye, everybody.